What is going on, everybody? How are you doing today on this lovely Tuesday? Jacob and I, we're back, episode number 5 of a podcast that we never thought we would actually end up starting, that we wanted to start, but now it's actually started. And so, hey, we're back for another episode. It's going to be so much fun. I'm excited. We're telling stories about junior high and high school fashion trends that we participated in that we're not necessarily too proud of, but things that we participated in. The next thing later on in this episode is we're going to be talking about depression and anxiety. And we've decided to bring on our very first guest that we've ever had on the podcast, someone that is a lot smarter than us, someone that's not necessarily as cute as us, but we're still going to have him on. So we're excited about that. A lot of you students will recognize him. He's the best. We love him. It's great. And this is Jacob Allen Nielsen, one of my best friends in the whole wide world. Jacob, tell him where you be recording from.
Ooh, I'm recording from my bedroom. You know what I'm saying? Right here where the magic happens. What? And by magic, I mean recording and Zoom meetings and worshiping the Lord Jesus. We're excited to be a part of your guys' weekly, twice a week.
That would be bi-weekly.
No, not bi-weekly, because that's every other week, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. See, we're dumb. That's why we need special guests, dude.
So we're just, it's bi-weekly.
No, it's stupid. We're just part of your weekly, just what you do every week. We're excited to be a part of you guys, part of what you guys are doing, part of what we're doing. We love you guys. We miss you guys. Hashtag LaCroix is the drink of the gods. What is that? Lemon?
It's tangerine.
Tangerine. And I got to give a quick shout out to a man named Jake Mathis. So last week, for Friday's recording, basically I stole his intro because Mike flipped the intro on me and was like, dude, can you do the intro? So I did it. So I resorted to what I know and I copied Jake Mathis's intro. So number 1, feel terrible. Number 2, Jake Mathis, if we ever get paid for this recording or for recording this podcast, you get the entire paycheck from the first episode. So shout out to you.
You can get his side, not mine. I take my 50 cents home.
There you go.
Hey.
That's what I'm saying. So we're just excited to be with you guys. We're out here talking about our bad fashion trends. And I'll go ahead and go first.
I'm excited about this.
So it was 8th grade going into 9th grade. So the good 13-year-old. I used to be a chubby boy. You know what I mean? Still a chubby boy. Chubby boys for life. So I was out here. Long shorts was what we wore. Long shorts. Jorts. You know what I mean? Long jean shorts. Past my knees. Almost mid-shin. Like looking like a cholo.
They're cuffed. Like they're meant to be like that. They're not cut. So they're not fraying. Yeah. Okay.
No, not frayed at all. Not close to my style. And understanding like my style is, I would say, hobo chic is probably how I'd claim it. You know what I'm saying? Right now, like currently.
That's good.
Yeah. But back then, I didn't have no style. The fashion was dead in the early or mid 2000s. You know what I mean? Nobody knew how to dress. Everybody was dressing like a fool. But specifically, I remember this. I had a Got Milk t-shirt. It was black, white Got Milk with a question mark. My jean shorts that were down to my shins. And the worst part was I had puka shells, white puka shells across the neck, bro. Way too tight, like
the
choker basically, with flip flops on. And we're down in San Diego, and we're just soaking up the sun, and I'm looking like a dang fool with my puka shell necklaces. They're kind of back now, though. Low key,
I love
like
that.
I've seen some girls with the puka shell vibe.
So, I love that. That's good.
So
I can picture. Like I have a vivid image of little chubby Jacob.
So good
in that outfit. That brings me so much joy. We should bring that back. We should bring back these outfits next Sunday when we come back, or when we're able to. These outfits. Could you imagine?
I couldn't imagine, dude.
I can't do it.
Dude, let me hear yours.
So mine that I think of immediately that it was just like, why the heck was I wearing that? I was never the skinniest individual in the world, but I would say that I've gotten more chubby over the years. Let's
Yeah,
just say that I was in better shape back then.
sure,
But I've never been, lean, fighting machine type of thing. Ninth grade for me, which for me was junior high as well. So I'm still in the awkward phase. It's weird. Like ninth grade should be high school, but when you're in middle school, you're kind of middle school. Um, but what I wore was I would rock jeans like normal, right? Just normal jeans, probably a
sure.
pair of Nikes, normal Nikes, or maybe some Chucks. I liked Chucks back in the day. That's before I jumped on the bandwagon of the Vans. Okay, all
Okay.
right, before I started jumping in them slip-ons just because it was so easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But on up top, what I would always wear ninth grade is I
Oh
went
no.
through this phase where I was rocking tall tees, bro. Freaking tall tees, bro. Like just
Stop.
plain black tall tee, almost down to my knees, dude. Just rocking it with my Dakine backpack, dude. Just like linked up, like all the way here and here. You know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
no.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
and yeah, dude, it was just a phase. I had like 20 of those shirts in just different plain colors, and I would
Oh.
just rock them to school every day. The tall tee life.
Oh.
Um, Part of me misses the tall tee life though, because
Okay.
there's something to be said about a shirt that when you go like this, your belly doesn't show. You know what I'm
Doesn't
talking about?
show. Yeah. There's not even
Like
close. Yeah.
that's the worst thing. Like there, I wear depending on what it is, like an XL
Yeah.
or a double XL. But the thing about double XL is it doesn't actually get longer, which is
Right.
normally the biggest problem for me.
Right. Right.
Um, it just gets wider, which is fine.
Yeah.
Love the extra room, but I need a little extra length. So I wish that they would make like an in between. You know what I mean? Because the tall tee's way too long. I feel
Right.
like I should be wearing shorts down to my ankles and a tall tee to cover how much I'm sagging my draws. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
oh, you're sagging too.
But I want
Yeah.
an in between. I want an in between tall tee
Right. Right. Right.
just
Somewhere
to
in
cover
the
my belly.
sweet spot. Somewhere in the
That's what I'm
sweet spot.
saying. Why can't they make a shirt like that?
Dude, what about where in Washington? Do they have like
Mm.
the fat, the puffy like DC shoes? Was that ever in
Dude,
style?
that was so I wasn't a
Yeah.
DC person though. This was when I was in
Okay.
elementary school.
Okay. Okay.
I was an etnie person. So I rocked etnies, I was those
These. Yeah.
etnies,
The
DC
big E.
people. And so I rocked the big E. I remember having a pair that were all white, dude, all
Stop.
white, big, chunky, never skated a day in my life. Pair of etnies that were blue
Stop.
logo, blue laces.
Oh.
That was my jam, dude. What about you?
Oh yeah, dude. The fat freaking tongues. They were the thick. They were like bricks, like toasters on
It
your
was
feet. They were kind
it
of
was
cushy though.
they were super cushy. I remember one day I was shopping for school with my mom, like before school
Yeah.
shopping. And
Yeah.
I remember the salesperson, for some reason, I remember this conversation. We were at like Zoomies or something like that. And I
Okay.
remember the salesperson just being like, you don't want to wear any other shoes than these etnies. He goes, they're so comfortable. He goes, if you're going to be standing all day in line or you're in the lunch line at school, you want these comfy shoes. If you're going on a walk, you don't want no shoes with no padding. And I just
Oh
remember this guy just trying to sell you boys super hard. And I'm like, I'm
yeah.
just trying to be on this fifth grade trend. You know what I mean? Get in these
Oh.
etnies.
Oh.
Stupid. But yeah, I remember
So
that. I don't know
good.
why I remember that, but it was good.
I I love that. I also so we had the cholos at our school, and
Okay.
they had the rubber bands with the dickies, so they'd tie
Okay.
up their rubber bands to their shoes,
Hmm.
and then make them look like cuffed at the bottom. I don't know what the vibe was for. I don't know the heritage or why that goes back or what that was. The original like thought process on that. But I
For
remember the
sure.
rubber band and the dickies for sure.
I like that.
Or
I like
the
that.
cholitas would always have like that super crunchy like hairspray hair, and it
Hmm.
would just be looking wet the entire day for some
Yep.
reason.
Yep.
Just
Did you just
always
get out of the
wet,
shower? Did you just have PE class?
and there's no way because it's fourth period, bro. It's
That's what I'm
12
saying.
o'clock. Your hair ain't
That's what I'm
wet
saying.
still,
Nope. Nope.
dude.
Um,
Oh my
I'm trying to
goodness.
think. Also, when I went into it was seventh grade, is when I got into just like the college hoodies, and I
Okay,
just started
okay,
wearing college hoodies every day,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Gonzaga, UCLA, Cal Berkeley, like all these
Mm,
colleges. I would go to Champs, right? shopping, go to Champs, right? I just buy a bunch of freaking different colored shorts, a bunch of different colored shirts, and a bunch of college tees, and then some Nike Shocks, bro. And that's what I
Oh,
wear every
shocks.
single day. Dude, that's when the Shocks are in. 7th grade for me. I was rocking Shocks, bro.
Dude,
What was that?
I gotta ask a question, dude.
Okay.
Were you ever into Hollister?
No.
No.
So I would
Okay.
I definitely had a couple things from Hollister, but
Okay.
it was like a hoodie that didn't even have a logo on it.
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
wore some American Eagle things. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
stand Hollister. It gave me a headache when I walked in.
It's dark, and is Hollister even around still?
I've seen them,
Okay.
but I
Okay.
don't know if people
But they're
actually
not
walk in.
popular.
I don't think people walk in them.
I don't think so either.
But
I
if
feel
you
like I
walk in
don't
them,
ever see.
they're coming back. They're making a comeback, maybe. You know?
I don't know. Rock a Hollister polo. You know what I mean? Way too
Yeah.
small, brightly colored with a little seagull on it.
I definitely rocked the American Eagle polos, like where you
Oh,
cuff the side. This is elementary school. You'd cuff it with a
oh,
white shirt underneath.
oh!
Dude, elementary school, bro. I remember I was like 4th or 5th grade. I was rocking that.
Stop, bro!
Dude,
I
I was
love
mad
that.
cute. I was mad cute.
Oh my gosh, I miss I miss that, dude. What's
Mhm.
one fashion thing that you never want to do? Like now, like current. What's one trend you don't ever want to be a part of?
I
Is there
don't
anything?
know. I don't know if there's anything. I think it's
Okay.
more I wish I could rock stuff, but it's just like not
Oh,
me. You know what I
okay,
mean?
okay.
Like I
Like
see
what?
people I can't even tell you. There's
Okay,
just there's just a lot of things I can't wear. I just feel like. You know what I mean? Like I
that's
just don't
fair.
got the body for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I feel
I
that.
don't know. I couldn't even pinpoint anything, but there's like
Okay.
I like shoes. You know this.
Shoes,
I
yeah,
like shoes.
yeah.
There's a lot of shoes that I think look really really dope, but I don't think I could ever rock them. And I think
Right.
that's probably the thing. Which is
That's fair.
good because I also can't afford those
Afford most of them.
shoes.
Yeah.
I probably spent 2 hours yesterday looking at shoes
Oh my god.
because
Dude,
I chose not to go on social media all day.
okay. Oh,
So
gotcha.
I spent my time looking at shoes that I
Looking
wanted. I
at
was
shoes.
coveting
Sick.
shoes that I can't have.
Sick. Wow. Check your heart, bro.
It's okay.
Check your heart.
I was looking at the Travis Scotts that you want, and I was like, oh, I should buy those for Jacob.
They're like $800.
$750.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way, bro. I appreciate even the thought, but yeah, that'd be nuts.
No, what went through my head honestly was I wish I had the money that I could be like, hey man, I know you like
Totally.
these. Here you go. Like that would be cool.
That would be sick. That's a different tax bracket. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We ain't
We
getting
ain't
no
in
Trump.
that.
We ain't getting no Trump check if we got that kind of bread.
That's so
Okay.
funny, dude.
We're getting topic.
I love that. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into our next topic.
Yeah.
We're gonna do some editing. We got to take a quick phone call, so give us a second. We'll get back to you guys.
Yeah.
All right, so we are back. It's your boy Jacob Nielsen introing one of my best friends, the junior high lead, or not junior high leader. What the freak? Junior guys leader.
Did I just get demoted?
I know, just demoted real
Bro,
quick.
don't say junior high is
Oh,
demotion. You
God.
suck.
Just down a level, you know?
Anyways, the junior guys leader, or Robert Augustus Craig, out here. Introduce yourself. Where are you going to school? What's your vibe, bro?
Oh, good morning. My name is Augie Craig. I am in my 5th year at Fuller Theological Seminary, working on a PhD in clinical psychology, as well as my master's in theology. So I work mostly with forensics and people who are experiencing homelessness, serious mental illness, and with trauma.
Gotcha. So by all accounts, way smarter than Mike and I, especially at this topic that we're going to be talking about, something that I know a lot of students deal with, something that they think they might suffer from or have. And so we just wanted to have an expert as far as we know, as my pool of influence, somebody who knows way more than us about the topic of depression and anxiety. Just, to obviously talk about it, you go to a school where you're also getting your master's in theology. So your faith basis is there and it's comfortable. so it's not going outside of that. But then also just
Definitely.
wanting to have a discussion from somebody who knows way more than just two pastors that work with junior hires and high schoolers.
Yeah,
So
like I said, spent a long time in school, so
exactly,
working for it.
exactly. So my first question was, what is depression and what is anxiety? Just let's start base level. I think this is good for junior hires and high schoolers,
Yeah.
just for us to talk about.
So depression and anxiety are two of the more common um, mental forms of emotional forms of emotional distress that we see in the world. Uh, they kind of exist on a spectrum, a continuum of like we all feel normative anxiety all the time. Where maybe I got a big test, maybe my parents texted me, "Hey, come home right now. We got to talk."
Yep.
Or I'm gonna go talk to this pretty girl, pretty boy, see what's up. I feel anxious in those moments, right? And then we all have different forms of like depression that we feel, where I feel a little bit down, I feel sad. Depression and anxiety are pretty like common terms that we toss around a lot, but they do exist on this spectrum, this like line that like from one side is like one of those like I want to talk to a pretty girl. The other side is I can't breathe. My heart is racing. I can never calm down. I'm stressed all the time. I can't eat, things like that. And depression of like, oh, my mom says I can't be on my phone anymore. I feel down. To like I have serious thoughts of like I want to die all the time.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of like the broad based understanding of them. Um, to get like basically they're caused by a chemical imbalance. Um, when they become more serious, they're caused by a chemical imbalance. Uh, Ordinarily, it's life situation things. Like I said, there's those things that pop up, and but at times it becomes bigger than that. And for the individual, for each person, for some people, it gets worse and more um, pronounced, more severe than that. And so it becomes a bigger issue that's more biologically based than just like situations around us.
Cool.
Does that make
And
sense?
no, that makes perfect sense. And you kind of already went into, the second question I was going to ask you. And that's neat to know that there is a spectrum of
Hmm.
anxiety and depression, because I think a lot of, what our students and even young adults kind of fall back on is like, oh, I'm depressed. So automatically they're at the worst form of like clinical depression or
Hmm.
worst form of like feeling anxiety, where there is just like normal world, like maybe somebody close to you died in your family. And like you're
Right.
going to feel crappy for the next couple of days, probably. And that's like a normal sense of feeling depressed, and
Hmm.
you're anxious because you got a big test or you got to figure out what college you're going to, and that
Right.
doesn't mean you're clinically diagnosed with anxiety and like this chronic thing, but it's like a normal world sense of like feeling anxious. And that,
Hmm.
I think that's good to know for a lot of people. I think people just think it's black and white when there's a little bit more gray.
Yeah.
There's a different spectrum or scale.
And that's what it really is. It is like there's levels to all of this, and that's depression, anxiety are a little bit unique in well, mental health in general is a little bit unique in that just because like there's this spectrum of things that we feel, and like one of the interesting pieces is that like in all of like the diagnostic areas for pretty much every mental illness that's listed in what's it's called the DSM. It's a Diagnostics and Statistical Manual. It's like how we diagnose everything.
Cool.
The one of the key pieces of diagnosis always is, does it cause significant impairment in life or impairment in functioning or distress? Like basically, does it bother me enough?
Mm,
If it doesn't bother me enough that I can't live my life, then it's maybe it's not a big deal for now.
right.
And so like that's another piece we have to look at. And so when it becomes a little bit more serious, that's because I feel like that's what you're hinting at is like when is it like a little bit more serious,
Totally.
right?
Yep.
Is like uh when it interferes with functioning, when it interferes with like my school, when it interferes with me hanging out with friends, it's one of those things when you can see it in people. The people around you will see it. Like they're like, oh man, like, Mike's not been hanging out as much. I don't know what's going on with that guy. When I do call him, he like doesn't hit me back, or he's like, when we hang out, he's like just kind of been down, it seems like, or he's stressed all the time. He can't stop talking about all these things.
Right.
So your friends around you will see it. Your parents will see it. But at the same time, like, don't, if you're a friend or a parent, don't like over pathologizing. Don't over read into it, right?
Right.
Because like maybe it is just like some of it is like normal. Like high school, junior high times is a rough time of life.
Totally.
Your body changes. You're going through like changes in how you deal with your parents, how you deal with teachers. All you're trying to figure out who you are, even because like you're now getting some sort of identity growth for yourself, and so there's part of it that's like normal. But when it becomes that it's a bigger problem with people around you, if you're ever getting any thoughts of wanting to hurt yourself or
Right.
do anything to cause harm to yourself, that's when it's obviously a bigger issue. And you need to seek help right away, whether it's calling, if it's an immediate help, if it's a 911 type of a thing, or if it's, getting into therapy, getting to talk to the pastors, anything. I'm a big advocate. I've been working as a therapist for 5 years now. And so I'm a huge advocate for therapy. I think everyone should be in it. I think everyone should be going. I've been in my own therapy for like 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that everybody should be going to, especially if things start getting a little bit worse.
Right. And I think that's a good like thing that you brought up is like for us, myself and Mike, there's a lot of discernment that needs to happen when it comes to talking to students about their depression or anxiety, because we can help, like we can love on students. That's what we're good at. We can have conversations. We can not judge them, being an open book to our students. But then I think it's always hard when it gets to the point of like, I want to hurt myself or I'm feeling like this for days and days.
Right.
And, this is for me and for like whoever else who works in youth ministry. Like, I know we can get ourselves in trouble if like we just continue to not think that we can figure out all the issues without, giving it to people that have the proper skills and proper tools in the tool bag, aka like counselors or therapists or people that are actually schooled to deal with more of those deeper issues and problems. So that's just something that is something that I want to talk about maybe later in a later episode, is like what that discernment looks like, and also like tips for students, even thinking about like when they need to seek out a counselor or talk to a small group leader or something like that. But I wanted to kick it over to Mike to see if you had any questions you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I liked your explanation of like it is a spectrum, because I think even on like the conversation of our students and talking about how it is natural that we're going to experience some of these feelings at different points in this awkward stage of life. I think it's very important for youth pastors, youth leaders, small group leaders, to really pay attention to their students. And like you were saying, like you'll be able to tell the people that are around you that are dealing with it, but also seeking to discern as best as possible, like what are more red flags than things that aren't, and it's going to lead me to a question of like you to kind of show those, because I think sometimes we can assume or see patterns, and without the background or the depth of understanding into this topic, we can almost bring it up to a student, and I think especially junior high, because there's less experience there, and amplify the problem by being like, oh, you're here, when maybe they're not, and they're like, oh, maybe I really am extremely depressed. Is that something that is can be negative to bring those things up, like bring it up to a higher category than it maybe needs to be? And like, how do we discern those things?
That's a great question. I think one of the things it's a lot of it matters in how we react to things, right? Like if my student comes to me and is like, hey man, I've been feeling kind of down lately, and I immediately call Department of Child and Family Services or 911 and hospitalize this person and try to get them hospitalized, that's like a vast overstep, right? Like,
For sure.
if I'm not trying to step in more with that. But if I come to a student and I'm saying, hey man, I've been noticing some things kind of been up, like what's going on about that? It's that like inquisitive, that open, curious mindset that would you want to find out more, and then just like jumping to a conclusion. And so even if you're noticing pieces that might lead you to a conclusion, but you're still asking about it, versus, and it's also like in the way you ask, right? Like so much stuff is how we do it, and
For sure.
not just like whether or not we do this. So like,
Yeah.
how do we ask if you're depressed, if someone's feeling down, if they need help, if they want help, do your parents know, would you be open to talking to them? And I would hope that if youth leaders, we would be like a resource that would be, can we talk with your parents? How would you feel if the three of us sat down, a few of us sat down together? What about siblings? Are they older siblings that can talk? To try and bring up a conversation about that. Some general like red-ish flags, symptoms that we would talk about. And depression, there's a lot of sleep disturbances. Right now, I don't know how your guys' students are sleeping. Mine are just like deciding to have a crazy sleep schedule during this whole time. So they're staying up till like 3, 4 in the morning, they tell me, and sleeping until like noon, 1 p.m. because quarantine lifestyle is insanity. But so that's a difficult one to talk about right now. But
Right.
if your student's spending the entire day in bed, if you're unable to get out of bed because you just have no energy for the day, if you just feel down all the time, if you notice that you're crying a lot, frequent crying spells, loss of appetite, or like big weight changes is one of them too, whether it's a huge loss of appetite or you're just eating all the time, loss of interest in things, if you don't feel like doing things, called anhedonia is the fancy word for it, but it's like not having any interest in doing things that I used to love. Like if I love doing X, Y, and Z, and all of a sudden, like I just don't have any idea for it. It's a little bit of a tough one with student age because students are trying new things, right? Like you get super into like an activity for like a week, you get super into Animal Crossing, and then you're just like, I can't do this anymore. This is boring, and you move on to something else. And so,
I feel like I still do that.
Right? There's like definitely like a layer to that that's normal, right?
For sure.
But if you've been into something for years, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, I don't even want to talk about it, then you're like, maybe feeling a little bit off.
Right.
Also with younger students, it shows up a lot with like an irritability, and younger students and guys, it shows up more with irritability than sadness sometimes.
Gotcha.
And it's like an interesting thing that's coming out of like literature stuff right now, of research stuff, is that we're a little bit more focused on, for guys and for younger people, it looks like being frustrated, angry, maybe getting in fights with teachers, getting in fights with parents, not like you'll see like mood changes, and like used to be the sweet kid and now something's going wrong. And of course, like one of the big pieces is if there's thoughts of suicidality, if you're thinking of hurting yourself. And it's another big one. That's like, I don't know how much we want to get into it now, but like that's obviously a really, really hard conversation.
Right.
But one of the things we talk a lot about in training and stuff is like, you're not going to cause someone to commit suicide by asking them about it. Like, it's not that no one's ever heard that word before, and we like jump around it sometimes.
Right.
And it's when it's age appropriate, asking like, do you want to hurt yourself or anything like that is okay. Like, you want to do things in a developmentally appropriate way. So if it is like, if it's a younger person, junior high or something, asking like, if you're worried about your student or your son, daughter, and saying, are you thinking about hurting yourself? That's not anything that's like going to be the first time they've ever thought about it. Like half these kids have watched what was the one, that 13 Reasons Why or whatever. Like,
Oh, it's super gnarly one.
yeah, it's everywhere, right? Like it's
Yeah.
better or worse, it's everywhere on stuff, and so it's like not going to be the first time it crosses someone's mind, and you're not going to cause anyone to commit suicide, hurt themselves because you ask about it.
Gotcha.
I mean, do it in a kind way, but
Right.
Sure.
Anxiety, to just jump there real quick. Anxieties will look like are a little bit more physiological. They're physical symptoms that you feel a lot more. So it would be like racing heart, like your heart's just beating like crazy. If you can't catch your breath ever, you're short of breath all the time. A lot of like distracting thoughts where like my mind's just going off, and I can't stop thinking about certain things, and it's just going.
Right.
And can look like it's called psychomotor agitation, where you're like maybe tapping your leg all the time, or fidgeting with your hands all the time, or doing like a little rock back and forth. Like you, in some, like you can see in some like some people who are a little bit more just like anxious in general will do those things day to day. But again, it's become, if it's a more all-encompassing type thing, that's like more of a problem.
Gotcha.
So that's when you see those things, like ask about it. Maybe it's at a level where just talking about it with someone you care about is fine. And I think Jacob's right, that like idea of discernment towards referral, like sending them to somebody else to see, is a big deal. I think we can see it as, I don't know. So a lot of my research has to do with how it's called trauma-informed ministry, and how pastors and ministers respond to trauma and just other like difficult situations in their churches. And a lot of people report that it can be very hard because it's almost like I can't handle it sort of a thing.
Right.
But like understand that that's not the reality of it, right? It's not just like I can't handle it. It's like I'm not gonna clean my own teeth with, I guess I do clean my own teeth. I was gonna say like a dentist. I'm not gonna pull my own teeth out, right? I'm not gonna fix a cavity by myself. I'm gonna go to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Right.
And so it's not like our own fault. So yeah, referral's a big deal too.
Right. And I think for me, like when I picture myself, youth group leaders or small group leaders, or even like friends of students, like we are to be like the liaison between, students and counseling or therapy, just because, like number one, it's scary to make that next step to like, number one, like, oh, I need help, to seek like a professional person. Once again, like I'm an expert at loving students, so are my small group leaders, but like, I can't run through everything, every trauma like a student has gone through. Like I wouldn't be able to do that. And so I don't know. I feel like part of, our roles is to break down the stigma of counseling or therapy, just because I think that's what's hard as like parents, they have their kid, right? And their kid is sad and maybe depressed to the point of like suicidal thoughts. And parents either want to shrug it off because they don't want to like admit that, their kid has like this issue that's actually there, or they don't want to see their kid as like, oh, my kid, I'm doing such a bad job parenting that my kid is also feeling this way. So it's like almost, helping and coming alongside of the parents as well, and to be like, hey, your kid like actually needs more help than, what we can offer at the church. And so I don't know if there's necessarily a question there, but that's how I see our roles, as like the liaison between, kids and, actual counseling or therapy.
No, I think that's great, because I think like at least usually I feel like our youth leaders tend to be in an age range that's like between parents and students, right? Like kind of like a middle ground there. And being able to be that like kind of adult, but like still fun and like able to have those conversations and like, but also like knowing that like I don't go home to them every day can create your role as a youth leader to be a little bit very unique, right? That like
Right.
outside of church doesn't happen much, right? Other than like other mentoring type activities, coaches maybe. But yeah, I think to be able to step alongside parents and be like, listen, like it's not necessarily anything that you're doing wrong as a parent. It's not
Right.
necessarily anything that the student is doing wrong. It may be a genuine biological issue, a
Right.
chemical imbalance in the student's brain. And understanding that like there's not necessarily somebody at fault here. I
Right.
think it's real easy. I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's really, really hard for parents to set into and be like, man, I must have done something wrong. Like,
Right.
what did I do so wrong? My kid's just so sad all the time. I'm such a bad parent. And not only does that make you feel awful,
Totally.
your student's going to pick up on that.
Right.
And what happens is when you feel that way, when those feelings come up, you're not able to regulate and hold on to your student the way they need to be in that time, because unfortunately it becomes about you again as
Right.
a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously not an intentional thing. You're trying to you feel bad, but
Yeah.
like it becomes more and more about you in reaction to that. And so at those times, like if your student is feeling that way, making sure that they're talking to the leader. Hopefully you are connected to the church also as the parent and can talk to pastors and your own
Right.
pastoral counseling or going to your own therapy. I know parents friendships can be really difficult. It's really hard to have friends when you're older. But hopefully you have trusted friends that you can be like, all this just happened. Like I need to unpack
Right.
this, and the friends that'll point you toward God and will point you towards healthy principles and understanding. Like it's not because you're a bad parent. Like things just go wrong, and it's the result of the fall, but it's not anyone's sinfulness.
Right.
At the same time, it's not because it's not because they're not praying hard enough, or you're
Right.
not praying hard enough, or you're a bad
Yeah.
parent. Like sometimes the reality is bad things happen.
Yeah.
Right. That's really fair. Mike, you have any more questions?
No questions. I think I just think this is really good for parents to hear too, of like a heart of like Jacob and I, and then also like a small group leader that has background in this. For them to just hear like our heart is to come alongside you in like whatever it is that
Sure.
your child is wrestling with. And like, first off, there's no judgment from us, whatever it is going on, because I
Totally.
think sometimes, if we're being honest, we hear from the students the worst parts about their parents at
Oh, yeah.
times. And like,
Totally.
Oh yeah.
and like, I totally hear my students and I feel you because like I've been there. But I also have like, we're in that in between stage where it's like, oh, I can look back now and realize, okay, to our
Right.
students, your parents aren't as crazy as you think they are.
Right.
And to the parents, like your student is really wrestling with some heavy stuff
Right.
at a younger age than I feel like people have in the past, or at least
Sure.
that we know about.
Definitely.
And so like we're here to help you walk those things, and like we want like we're doing our very best to keep lines of communication open with your student, that if they don't feel comfortable to talk to you, like they can talk to us or their small group leader or those sorts of things, and to like trust us in the fact that we'll come to you if there's a real thing that we need to
Sure.
be discussing. Like there's never anything that is it's not a closed book. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we're open to you. Obviously there's confidentiality with our students, and I'm not going to share anything if they ask me not to, but if it comes to health and safety, it's like we have to share those sorts of things out of love. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yep.
And so I just appreciate you, Augie, being able to just share like things that parents can pay attention to, things
Yeah.
that leaders can pay attention to, things that even students can pay attention to, and be like, if you're wrestling with this, like you're not alone in it. It's not something you did wrong. Like I think each and every one of us in this conversation has said that we found ourselves in places in different times of our lives where it's been a little bit harder than maybe we are right now, or maybe we're wrestling with them right now. And just
Definitely.
like it's okay, but you can't just wrestle with it by yourself.
Right. And
So,
that's one of the hardest things about, well, adolescence in general for students, but like especially when you start feeling down, start feeling depressed, is that depression tells you, oh, you're a screw up, you're all alone.
Right.
And the anxiety is going to tell you that if you tell anybody about this, they're going to think you're crazy. They're going to like, throw you in a loony bin or something. And so our brains lie to us is what's crazy to think about, right? Like our brains go to false conclusions. And so recognizing when that happens and having to step past that's the biggest thing, I think, because so reaching out for help is such a big deal. Like I know when I've gone through harder times, having to just be like, I want to sit in my room and do nothing and lay under the covers and like throw my phone away, and I'm just going to lay here forever. But then I'm like having to be like, no, I can't do that. I know that's not what I need to do. And so whether it's, non-quarantine times, hanging out with people or like reaching out and sending a couple texts, calling a couple people when I don't want to at all. I don't want to admit I'm having a hard time. I'm a big tough guy, right? I don't have like sad times. But having to like hit up my friends and be like, hey guys, I need some prayer. Hey guys, can you just like be there for me? I'm just going through it right now. And I think like, for parents, if your student reaches out to you that way, responding in that middle ground, not saying it's not a big deal, calm down, and not saying, oh my God, what are we going to do? What's going to happen here? This is the worst thing that's ever happened. And freaking out, like, you're the adult. Like, that's the really hard part of this sometimes is like, parents are the adults. And so your kids may respond, your students may respond in a goofy way, but you have to hold that. You have to be bigger than that, which is really difficult. And one of the things that one of my favorite like pieces from learning like adolescence like stuff is like, I often think like, and we'll laugh about the students like going through like when they're, talking about like, oh, I'm in 7th grade and I broke up with my girlfriend of like 2 weeks and like, I'm going to die. Like this is the worst thing ever like happened.
For sure.
It doesn't like, I can't live through this. Right. And understanding that like for them, it is like the worst thing that's ever happened to them,
totally.
right? Like like, cause now I'm, almost 30 years old. I'm like, oh, okay, who cares? But at that age, I felt that way. Like my world is collapsing because that's all I knew.
Right.
And so taking that like perspective of like, they're not just being dramatic just to be dramatic, right? Like, I mean, sometimes we are, but it feels that like, it really feels like that for them.
Right.
So validating that, stepping into that. Students, when you feel that way, like hopefully knowing that like your parents, your small group leaders won't just push you down because, oh, you're dumb, but will be there to support you and love you, we'll be able to open up with that.
I think that's a good place for us to kind of just wind down in this session. But like, obviously, Augie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, sharing
thank you
your
guys.
heart. Yeah. And I think this is, just as Mike was saying, like, or you guys were saying, this is just such a good piece of information, not only for students, but for small group leaders and parents. Like if you're listening, like, I hope you guys enjoyed this as well. And, we want to create this to be something that the whole family can kind of listen to, or everybody can listen to and glean something from. Like, obviously earlier today, we were talking about our poor fashion choices. And now we moved into a little bit more of a serious topic, but like, whether that's you wearing the same sort of DCs or etnies Mike and I used to wear, or
with the sock under the tongue, or what? With the
exactly, exactly, bro.
Yep.
Or just and you're a student and you feel really sad all the time, and you're wrestling with like, is this something that's serious, or am I just sad right now? Like, I don't know. I love this podcast. Love the opportunity to talk to people that are smarter than me. That's all I wanted to say. So peace out. Love you guys. Mike,
I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. Mike, give us your exit, bro.
Oh, dude. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sure. What?
Dude, my headphones just did the dying thing. So I thought they died.
Oh, you're a psycho.
My exit thing. What's my exit thing?
Just say
I
goodbye.
love you guys. I miss you. Can't wait to hang out. Peace, love, blessings. Augie's art on my.
Oh, that's right. I made that mug.
Let's go. We love you guys. We'll see you on Friday for another episode. Peace.
Peace.
Take it easy.